And this leads us right into our next session, which is building human connection at scale in the age of AI. In hospice care, empathy is everything. To talk about how AI can actually protect that human heart, please welcome Joy Fajardo, Amanda Hejera from LineZero, along with Sandra Dillon, Vice President of Administrative Services and Engagement at Hospice of the Chesapeake. They have an incredible story about using tech to support trust, not to replace it. Amanda, Sandra, and Joy, the floor is yours.
What an amazing way to kick off. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, Cassandra, for the intro as well. And hello, everyone. So, as you heard, this session is going to be about building human connection at scale, especially in hospice care, where empathy is really foundational. So, we want to make sure that you get the most out of this session. So, let's dive right in. Good morning, Sandy and Amanda.
Good morning.
All right. So,
Good morning.
Sandy, hey. So I want to get started with Sandy. So let's start at the heart of your work. For those meeting Hospice of Chesapeake for the very first time, can you please share who you serve and why human connection is so essential to your mission?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everybody. As Joy said, Sandy Dillon at Hospice of the Chesapeake. We are a healthcare provider on the continuum of care in Maryland. We serve about a 1.5 million residential population, and we're caring for about 1,000 patients every day. So when you hear hospice, I think that means to you end of life, those last couple of days in life, and I'm here to tell you that's not the case. We're caring for patients pre-diagnosis, at diagnosis, their 6 month on hospice care, and their families afterwards. So it's a long continuum of care. We're taking care of people, not numbers. We're taking care of families, and they need a human connection, plain and simple. That's what hospice care is about. It's about reaching someone in the comfort of their home or in the facility where they live and making it a one-to-one relationship. People do not want to deal with AIs or automated phone systems when they're at that point of their life. So it's really about one-to-one connection, and making sure they're getting the care that they want, when they want it, and where they want it.
Thank you so much, Sandy. That
Sure.
really grounds us in what's at stake here, right? Human connection, it's not a nice to have in hospice care. It is
Mhm.
foundational. And when connection matters that much, alignment behind the scenes actually becomes just as critical. So I
Mhm.
wonder, can you walk us through a specific moment where alignment and connection truly mattered? You know, that moment when your team's ability to kind of work together made a real impact and difference for a patient or, say, a family whom you're serving.
Sure. Great example is one of our nurses goes into someone's home, to the patient's home, and there's been a change in their care. There's been a change in where they are in that disease trajectory. And something is happening, a crisis moment that's happening. We need all other 250 clinical technicians to be able to know that information right away. So they need to be able to touch each other and understand and say, hey, this family could call into the office 5 minutes after I leave, and I want everybody to understand where that family is. We don't want an environment where the family's like, well, the nurse just left and you guys don't know what's going on. So us staying connected as a team and relying on each other is really critical to our success as an organization, and frankly, that patient family experience, which is unique to them. They don't know there's 600 other patients being taken care of, and we don't want them to worry about that. We want them to know what's happening with their loved one in that moment, and the rest of the organization has access to that information. Obviously, we use an electronic medical record for that kind of information, but still staying connected as a group is critically important for us.
That's a great example. And I feel what really stood out is that because people kind of feel aligned and supported, they could really focus better on the organization's mission. And that
Absolutely.
good communication didn't get in the way of the care. It actually made care even more efficient, more possible, right?
It does. And also imagine that you're a nurse who's on the road all day long and you're seeing 6 or 7 patients that day. You don't have time to wonder what's happening behind the scenes. You don't have time to say, let me read these 16 emails. So we need a product and an environment, a platform that allows them super easy access to the information that helps them as an employee so they can be unburdened by that and take care of the people that they need to care for.
Amazing. I guess moments like that kind of becomes harder to protect as organizations grow. So I wonder, as Hospice of the Chesapeake grew with hundreds of staff, many external stakeholders, what actually became harder to sustain around alignment and trust? And how did those challenges kind of shape the questions or concerns that come up when you began discussing about AI and engagement platforms?
Yeah, I mean, again, we want our team to stay engaged as much as possible. We want them to have the information at their fingertips. As we grew as an organization, we had a major acquisition in 2020 and another major acquisition in 2022. So those organizations came with their own culture and their own way of communicating. So we had to find a way to make 330 employees feel like they're part of a family. We had to figure out a way for those 330 employees who all different roles, might be administrative, might be in the field, might be IT. We had to find a way for them to feel connected with each other, to then connect with our mission. A nurse might feel like she's on her own out there all day long, but she needs to know that she has, 329 other employees who are there. And how do we do that? How do we keep a sense of community? How do we keep a sense of family, and not become too corporate, right? Like a large organization, I mean, we're a $50 million organization per year. And so that's easy to get lost in that. It's easy to not feel like it. So when we looked at products, we were looking at things that could achieve our goals corporate and achieve our goals clinically, but also create community. That was probably the piece that we were really missing, was the community piece. And so how do I feel like I'm part of the nursing community? How do I feel like I'm part of my team? And then how do I feel like I'm part of the larger Hospice of the Chesapeake team? It was a lift. It was a heavy lift to do that. And I'm not sure that we necessarily knew what the answer looked like. We needed some tools and some help and some support. And Amanda has been terrific with that for us to really help us navigate that. Like, what's the question? And then what do we have that we could answer that question with? And sometimes we didn't know what the question was. Because if you have the absence of community, then you don't know what it looks like to have community. So we really went along those lines to try to figure out, what's the right space for us. Because we are a human services organization, we don't like to feel corporate, plain and simple. We don't like that approach. We want community approach. We want local, specific community and connection.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Sandra. And Amanda, do you want to add on to that?
Absolutely. Just as Sandy said, with building on these engagement platforms, with AI coming into the game field, the intention is to use AI to help centralize that communication and protect that trust and culture, just as the organization grows, right? We want to use AI and these engagement platforms and technology to help with the growth and make it smoother without losing that human connection, without replacing people. We want to help it to, reduce noise while also protecting the trust as the organization is slowly scaling into something bigger.
Amazing. I guess one thing I got from here is that growth doesn't really break the culture, but it kind of exposes where those informal systems just stop working. And this is really where this whole conversation just stops being about the tools, but it actually starts being about the intention. So, Amanda, from the LineZero's perspective, what were you hearing from Hospice of Chesapeake and any other nonprofits you've worked with that really signaled, oh, this wasn't about just adding a new tool, but it's actually about protecting their culture, their clarity, and their trust?
Absolutely. Such an amazing question. So from the very beginning, with a lot of, non-for-profits, and especially with the Hospital of Chesapeake, from the start, when I started talking to Sandy, when we discussed adding a new platform to the organization, the goal behind it was never to just add a new platform. It was more about protecting the culture that they have and enhancing it and making it a better experience for the culture. Just like Sandy mentioned, they're not just numbers. These are people and nurses that are helping make a difference in people's lives, right? So we wanted to use technology that was led with their purpose, with their mission, right? I heard this desire of, creating this trusted culture, this trusted community for the staff, for the volunteers, everyone from frontline workers to everyone in the behind the scenes that could have access to everything, but without creating any sort of friction. So at the same time, just as you guys mentioned, with technology, with AI, there's always this little worry behind it that you're going to lose that human touch, that things are just going to become too automated. And that's what organizations worry about a lot, which is a completely valid idea. But that also shows us how deep emotional connection and trust and values is at the core of using AI and technology. So from my perspective, this using AI and technology wasn't just simply adding a new platform or a new platform decision. It was more of a cultural one that was led by the purpose and the value and the mission of the organization, because we wanted to focus on using technology and AI in a thoughtful way where it actually enhanced clarity, it enhanced connection while keeping the people and the emotional connection at the core and at the center of it all.
One thing I
Wow.
really appreciate,
Yeah.
Joy, about Amanda and the LineZero team is that they jumped in to learn our culture. They weren't just like, this is how it works. They were like, tell us about that. Tell me more. They were curious about how we managed our organization. I'm sure there's a different culture in every organization that they work with,
True.
but we didn't feel like it was cookie cutter. We didn't feel like they were saying to us, here's how you need to do it. They were learning about our culture, and really it was a wonderful opportunity to get to know the team over a 3 or 4 month period. It wasn't like, okay, here you are, it's built, launch Tuesday, see ya. So it's been a great relationship, and they've learned, and Amanda's been spectacular about being curious about the work we do.
It's
Thank you
amazing.
so much, Sandy. Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
amazing. Like I feel like technology sits at the middle, but the culture in the organization, Hospice of Chesapeake, and the culture of LineZero is actually what makes it very human. And I also love the framing of Amanda that it's never about digitizing. It was more like, let's be more deliberate, let's be more intentional about how people experience the organization as a whole. So, yeah, I love that. Now, let's talk about what that looked like in practice. So, Sandy, can you share a particular technology that has really helped you and your team at Hospice of Chesapeake build connection at scale?
Yeah, it's very interesting because we're a very, again, non-corporate organization, even though we're a large organization. And there's a lot of fear around technology and AI that it's going to replace the human touch that we have. So a lot of fear every time we bring up anything like this, like, oh no,
Mhm.
now we're all going to just be, bytes and bits, and we're not going to have what we have found, and what we've tried to share with our team is that this gives you more time to be connected. We're taking away the mundane tasks that you have to do, and that gives you more time to connect with your colleagues, more time for you to be with patients and families. You don't have to keep worrying about, where am I clicking? What am I doing? In a healthcare environment, there's a lot of things that we're required to do. And so taking any of that off the team is really helpful. Our electronic medical record helps that too. We have AI built in. Your previous presenter, we have speech to text. They can talk into their phones, and it will go automatically into their electronic medical record, which is much more robust than typing a sentence, right? Like, you're going to
Mhm.
elaborate when you're speaking in a totally different way. So we've been trying to cross those barriers of that fear. And I think this Workvivo is going to be a really good example of people going to feel like, well, why do I need to go there? Why is that an extra thing I have to do? But hopefully they'll recognize that in the end, it's creating community in a very different way.
All right. So, Sandra, you mentioned Workvivo there very briefly, but for most of our audience, they're not familiar what Workvivo is. Sandra or Amanda, can you just briefly touch on what is Workvivo?
Amanda, you want to go ahead and then I'll follow up?
Absolutely. So Workvivo is really, it's a wonderful engagement and communication platform that's basically a hub for everything you want just in one place. It has AI, it has your documents, it has your posts, it has everything that can range from recognizing how wonderful employees are to creating that communication between employees where they can communicate with each other on a day-to-day basis. So just as Sandy said, when you are an organization, an NFP that's, has a lot of information in the background. There's a lot of behind the scenes going on. It's a wonderful place to have one place that connects everybody in one simple way, where everyone also has access to everything just in one spot.
We have, we're still in our launch phase, so we haven't rolled out completely. But a great example for you is in the past, if we had a snowstorm like we had on the East Coast this year in the United States in Maryland, it would have felt like every individual team member was on their own, right? Like they have to dig out, they have to get to their patients and all of that. So previously, I had no way of sharing that. So Workvivo is going to give me the opportunity to say, let's all hang in there together. Hey, staff members, post a picture of how much snow's on your car, how you're getting out. Give us a story about maybe how you handled that. I had a family story this week where the family called in because the nurse literally shoveled her way into the home and shoveled her way out of the home. And the family was in tears because they imagined with the snowstorm, nobody would ever come and help them and take care of their loved one. So previously to having a platform like Workvivo, I had no place to share that other than another email. And so with Workvivo, when we get to that level of that kind of content, I think it's just going to be a great opportunity for the staff themselves to share those stories, to say, here's what I'm going through, here's what my day looks like, and then create that sense of we're in this all together.
That's amazing. I'm just actually about to ask about examples. Sandy already gave a great one. Amanda, what have you heard or have you seen any specific examples as well of how Workvivo has been used? And what are the improvements? How did it feel different for the people who are using it?
Absolutely. So, Workvivo sometimes, just as Sandy says, I have many organizations that use Workvivo as their sole purpose of communication. That's all they have to communicate with their employees, whether they are in different countries, in different cities. Workvivo is their main platform of communication. So that not only can they use that for work, they can use it to communicate with each other. They can talk to each other. We want to think of Workvivo, and many of my non-for-profit clients have used Workvivo in the sense where this is not just another platform where you just go check for updates or for news. No, this is where you can also check for updates and news, but you can also talk to your team, talk to your staff, talk to your organization, see how everyone's life is doing. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's work that there's no family culture. So Workvivo itself it's not just a work platform, but it's a cultural, it's a community platform that can be used for so many different ways. And many of my clients, after they've used a platform, when they implement the platform, like I said, that is their only source of communication with everyone. They don't have in-person offices. That is what they use to communicate with everyone else. And like Sandy mentioned, when you have nurses that are in different areas that, you can't just quickly pick up and say, hello, I need you to do this and this, or you want to update people in a quick response. That's where such a platform comes into use, because you're communicating with everyone, but you're also connecting with everyone. And that's the purpose that we want.
What I
Those
really
are
appreciate about Workvivo is that it's a two-way communication tool. So it's
Yes.
not just internal communications, us pushing out messages. It is the ability for the team to then communicate in return, or communicate what's important to them or what they're experiencing. We haven't had that before. We have not had a place for people to share what they're going through or what their experience is, or how they're responding to the internal communications we're sending out. Maybe we send out a communication and somebody in the field saying that doesn't work for us. If you're a nurse in the field, what you just said doesn't work. We haven't had a place for them to then respond or comment or have a reaction to the communications that we sent out. So I'm really looking forward to creating, more of a listening platform, as well as a communication platform.
Amazing. the key theme for me that I'm hearing here is that technology, no matter what it is, Workview or any others, it should work for work related items, but at the same time, it should be able to support the culture. And as Sandy said, two-way communication, not just the in the past, it's top down and you just listen. Now is both ways. Like you have to speak, but you also have to listen. So I really love that. But naturally, it raises questions people are often hesitant to ask out loud. So, Amanda, question for you. For our non technical audience, where does AI quietly support that experience? And where do humans stay fully in control? Because the hesitation is there. Like, will I still have control? Like, can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So for a non-technical audience, AI really quietly supports in the background. We may not notice it, but it really makes things simpler. It makes it more intuitive. So AI itself, it's going to help people find information faster. And that's the purpose that we want to use it for. We're not using AI to cover or replace that human connection. We're using it so that we can make it easy for employees, for staff, whether it's internal or external, to free up more of their time to do more tasks to help more people, right? So AI is just going to be there. It's going to help you find that information faster, that document faster. It's gonna all those updates, it's gonna help you surface it way faster, and it's going to keep that content organized for your employees so that it's not all over the place, right? You don't have to constantly think, oh, I need this, I need this. Where do I find it? Where does it live? Or how to search for it? It just works and it's quietly helping you in the background. So where humans stay fully in control, it's in everything, because with AI, you're just using it in the background, but the humans itself, they're the ones that are bringing in that trust and that culture. So the leaders and the staff, they decide what's communicated and how it's communicated or where it lives. And teams can choose how they're going to recognize one another or tell their stories or show up for each other. AI is not gonna cover that human connection. It never could. The tone and the values and the emotional connection, all of that always will be human led. AI is going to be helping, supporting in the background, just making it easier, reducing that friction and freeing up more time for an organization, for the staff and employees to continue with that emotional connection and those missions that they have that they want to achieve.
Do you have anything to add there, Sandy?
Yeah, I do think that's been a big fear is that AI is going to take over, right? Or a platform like this is superficial. And I think what I'm hoping to be able to do is really assure our teams that AI it's a tool, it's a support function, it's not taking over. But the other thing that I'm really hoping we can utilize is real conversation with the AI. Not I have to understand the technical terms or have to think, literally I can ask a question like I could ask Amanda a question, and that tool will help us, because sometimes we don't know where to look or what we're looking for. We need actually to say to somebody, hey, where would I find this? Rather than spending 20 minutes clicking through a bunch of files and documents and that sort of stuff. So that's where I'm really hoping that the AI can help us, is efficiency and gathering information, but that also feeling like it's not some big scary beast out there that is going to eliminate anybody's jobs. We are not about that. We are about hiring more people to take care of more people, because those tasks are in the background, they're taken care of. We have a lot of tools that we're using from an AI perspective around auditing, where we would have to have a full-time person auditing, charts for patients. Now that task happens in 15% of their day, and they're freed up to do other things that really impact patients and families. So that's but it's a big hurdle. It's a big hurdle. A lot of people are very fearful. They're very fearful that it's like watching you and what you're doing. And so we've got to find ways to get by that. And I think Workvivo for us is going to be one of those leaps forward and saying, wow, this is like having an assistant. That's how I look at it. It's like me having a full-time executive assistant. In my role, I can use AI that way. I don't have to constantly have a person who's doing that. That person that works for me can go do things that touch patients and families and staff members, things that matter, not, auditing or looking for information.
Amazing. And I think it matters a lot. What clicked to me is when Sandy was sharing about um, the limit the number of clicks, and also not to have to wonder what is the right question to ask, right? So especially in healthcare and also in nonprofits, the more you click, the less time you spend with your patients, with the people that you serve. So I think that's where AI can really help us and not really take away our jobs. And then also another thing is technology now not just connects employees among themselves, but what Amanda mentioned earlier is connect us with the files as well, like the search engines and things like that. So, yeah, with 4 minutes left, so I want to zoom out for a moment. For other nonprofit leaders navigating AI and technology right now, a lot of them are watching us today. What advice would you give us about using technology to protect humanity, strengthen trust, scale impact, but at the same time, without drifting from the organization's purpose? Um, Sandra or Amanda, either of you can take this one.
I'll take it. So, I think that we have to build that trust. It only comes from miles on the road. I think people have to use a platform that they're comfortable with. I think they have to see the advantages in it, and not just be in the background. They have to see that, wow, this is really helping us. This is something that we're going to value. We're going to move forward. So, I do think it's experience based, and so we need to be really sure and careful that when we launch and when we move forward, that experience is a really good one. And I do think, if you're a nurse in the field and you've got to transfer a patient, you don't need 25 minutes of trying to find the right form. Okay. You don't need that. You don't need that experience, nor does the family need that. And so being able to just say to the AI, what's the standard of work for transferring patients, and then it becoming immediately available, is going to be a huge win for our teams. We're very pressed. We're very busy. Our nurses are very busy. Days like today, as I mentioned in Maryland, there's all kinds of obstacles, right? Getting into people's homes is now taking another 30, 40 minutes because you've got to find a place to park and you've got to make sure you're in there. So whatever we can do to limit those administrative needs for our staff is going to ultimately give them more time to connect with each other, and to connect with their patients and families. So for us, that's the most important thing. Anything we can do to maximize that time, that human connection time, is going to be the most valuable for us.
Amazing. Thanks, Sandy. Amanda?
Absolutely. And to add on to that, just as Sandy said, um, it's hard to stay in control sometimes when you're switching into something new, especially with AI, because you need to be transparent. Just be transparent about how AI is being used so that not just leaders, but the whole organization can build that trust with that organization. Because we just want to remember that at the core of using AI and technology is your mission and your values. So your mission and your value and your purpose, that's what's going to lead AI and technology to follow that purpose. And you want to keep that at the core without it pulling away from that human connection or that purpose. We want to use it to the best of its benefits to reduce that friction and to free up even more time for that human connection and for the impact that the organization makes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. Quick question before we wrap up. I saw here, does a program like Workvivo connect with your OneDrive, SharePoint, or how does it access documents?
Amanda?
Yes, absolutely. So you can integrate OneDrive with Workvivo. You can also move all the other every single document to Workvivo. It's a simple way of just connecting it. You can link it to your SharePoint if you would wanted to. You can link your personal profile to the SharePoint at the same time to access those documents, or you can really house all those documents onto Workvivo itself. It's all available, and there's many different alternatives and options that you have when you want to have your documents onto Workvivo, even if it's on a SharePoint drive.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda. We are at time, but Christopher will probably connect with you separately to address your question. And I saw Monica has a comment as well in there, so we'll get back to you. But for now, I wanted to quickly go through something. So many organizations really tell us they feel the tension between scaling communication and protecting human communication, but they don't really always know where the gaps are. So we created this quick human connection health check quiz. It's going to take you about 2 minutes, and once you complete it, it will immediately show you your connection profile. There's no good or bad result there. Each profile will just simply show you what your organization needs next. Now, once you complete the quiz, you see your profile, you'll also be able to download practical tips that you can action right away. So just by answering the quiz, you'll walk away with action items that you can take back with your team. And on top of that, because we are at Empower, there's something extra for sure. In that same file that you will download, you'll also see the biggest opportunity to move to the next profile. The profile is going to be, or the opportunity is going to be different depending on your profile. Those deeper engagements are typically paid, but for Empower, everyone who completes the quiz will be entered into a draw. We'll select the 3 winners to receive the engagement at no cost. So feel free to scan the QR code. We'll also send this over via follow-up email after today's event. And if today's session resonated with you, I would say that this is a super simple way to reflect on where you are today and what could meaningfully move connection forward next. So I want to thank Sandy and Amanda for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us live at Empower 2026.
Thank you so much, Sandy, Joy, and Amanda. That was such a moving reminder that tech is the tool that let us handle the heavy lifting so we can actually free up more time for that deep emotional connection and, of course, for your mission, that it's what matters the most. Special thank you again, Sandy, for being so open with your thoughts and sharing today. Now.